Title: Cannibals, Blood and Belief, Ritual Cannibalism in the South Pacific. Exploring the Four Peoples mortuary rituals in Papua New Guinea, where endocannibalism was practiced to absorb the spirit of loved ones and keep them close in life. Anthropologists and local elders recount how this sacred practice unintentionally triggered the outbreak of Kuru, a deadly prion disease spread through brain tissue. Through interviews with survivors, rare archival footage, and expert commentary from figures like Dr. Carlton Gajusek, the episode examines how a practice rooted in love became lethal. The Four's story closes with a reflection on cultural change, the abandonment of the rite, and the power of tradition in the face of science. Empires of Flesh, Ritual and Sacrifice in the Americas. We travel to ancient Tenochtitlan, where Aztec priests offered human hearts to the sun god Huitzilopochtli. Scholars analyze the blend of religious fervor, cosmology, and statecraft behind ritual sacrifice. We then shift to the jungles of Brazil, where the Tupinamba practiced exocannibalism, consuming their enemies as acts of vengeance and spiritual assimilation. Spanish and Portuguese explorers' graphic accounts are juxtaposed with indigenous oral histories, illuminating how cannibalism served social and symbolic functions. The episode challenges colonial depictions and uncovers how flesh and faith built empires. Warlords and Hunger, Africa's Darkest. Using gripping testimonies, we expose cannibalism during conflicts in Liberia, Congo, and Uganda. Former combatants, child soldiers, and victims reveal how consuming human flesh was used to instill fear, demonstrate power, and invoke spiritual protection. The episode profiles figures like Joshua Blahi, General but Naked, and explores how traditional beliefs in absorbing an enemy's strength were twisted in the chaos of war. Political analysts and cultural historians discuss how colonial legacies, poverty, and militia indoctrination fueled a return to primitive terror tactics. Frozen Flesh, Starvation and Survival in Eurasia. This episode chronicles the bleakest hours of modern history when famine forced ordinary people to the brink of humanity. In Ukraine's Holodomor, survivors describe secret burials and the disappearance of children. The siege of Leningrad is brought to life with chilling diaries of civilians boiling wallpaper for soup before turning to darker means. In Maoist China's Great Famine, villagers recount harrowing scenes of desperation. Experts analyze how totalitarian policies created food shortages, while the moral and psychological scars of survival cannibalism remain buried in silence. Please like, share and subscribe to help the channel grow. Thank you. Let's continue. Islands of the Damned, Oceania and the Myth of the Savage. This episode challenges Western portrayals of Pacific Islanders as man-eaters. Through archaeological evidence and indigenous narratives from Fiji, Aotearoa, New Zealand, and the Solomon Islands, we reveal how cannibalism was a structured, spiritual act often linked to mourning, warfare, or justice. Indigenous leaders and scholars deconstruct colonial exaggerations that painted entire cultures as savage, emphasizing how these myths justified violence, forced conversion, and land theft. The episode reclaims the narrative, showing that cannibalism, while real, was never the chaotic bloodlust imagined by European colonists. Gods of Death, Spiritual Cannibalism in India. We enter the world of the Agori, ascetics who worship Shiva in his form as destroyer and liberator. Living among cremation grounds and shunned by mainstream society, Agoris perform taboo rituals, eating flesh from corpses not out of depravity, but to transcend fear, ego, and duality. Through exclusive access and interviews with Agori sadhus, we explore their doctrine of non-discrimination and the ultimate belief that nothing is impure in the eyes of the divine. Scholars of Hinduism unpack the metaphorical and symbolic significance of these acts, offering insight into a spiritual path paved with paradox. The Modern Monster, Cannibal Killers of the West. From the frozen apartment of Jeffrey Dahmer to the courtroom of Armin Meiwes, this episode investigates the psychology of modern cannibals in industrialized societies. Forensic psychiatrists explain how trauma, isolation, sexual pathology, and mental illness create predators who kill and consume. We examine cases like Albert Fish, Issei Sagawa, and Gilberto Vale, analyzing how digital culture blurs lines between fantasy and crime. Through chilling interviews and courtroom footage, we confront the horror of those who devour not for ritual but for pleasure. Legacy of Flesh, Taboo, fascination, and fear. Why does cannibalism still captivate our darkest curiosities? This episode explores its portrayal in art, religion, literature, and pop culture, from ancient Greek myths to Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus, from Hannibal Lecter to viral news stories. Psychologists and cultural critics discuss why the idea of eating human flesh horrifies and fascinates us. We look at real-life survival tales like the Donner Party and the 1972 Andes plane crash, examining how extreme conditions push the boundaries of ethics. In closing, the series reflects on cannibalism not just as history, but as a mirror showing us what it means to be human and what lies beneath. Please like, share, and subscribe to help the channel grow. Thank you.